Welcome back to HDL Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigby, and today we have an amazing guest, one who's about to take us on a mind-expanding journey into the secret life of one of history's most revered figures. I have her book right here, so we're going to get into that today. But joining us is Dr. Marguerite Mary Rigoglioso. She's a PhD, the world's foremost authority on the history of virgin birth, and a groundbreaking scholar in the field of divine feminine studies. So we're going to get heavy into that today. That's what the book is about. Dr. Rigoglioso is not just an academic. She's a visionary thinker who bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern spiritual awakening. As the founding director of Seven Sisters Mystery School, she has taught graduate and undergraduate courses across the United States and United Kingdom, inspiring countless students to explore the depths of feminine spirituality. Her latest book, which I encourage everybody to pause this right now and hop onto Amazon. It is called The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. I read this, and that's what we're going to go over today. And I'll have the link for Amazon in the show notes, guys, so get that. Let's support our guest. It is set to revolutionize our understanding of Mary, presenting her not just as a mother of Jesus, but as a powerful spiritual master, healer, and leader in our right. So without further ado, let's welcome the brilliant and insightful Dr. Marguerite Rigoglioso to the HDL Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's great to be here.
That's so awesome. And I read your book, and, coming from like a typical dude, I looked at it and I was like, divine feminine power, personal healing, planetary awakening. I kind of started off with it, kind of like, is this book for me or not? Why would you think that this book is for everybody? And why is Mother Mary worth rediscovering?
Yeah, this is about accessing our own power, whatever our sex. Because we've been given really small versions of the people in the Christian, if you will, story. And those small versions keep us small. And this is a maxim that you find in the Gospel of Philip, that the larger and higher and deeper you see these beings, the larger and higher and deeper you can go in your own spiritual growth, ascension, if you will, whatever term you want to use. So this is an unveiling of Mother Mary for us to see her in an incredibly different way, a much more authentic way. And it's a thrilling view of an authentic holy woman. We would say the highest holy avatar who ever walked the planet, and what her role was in the bringing of the Christos Sophia mission to our world. And then not only how that keeps us stuck in history, but how that brings us forward, because these powers that we start understanding about her, that I was researching, are powers that are available to all of us. Jesus said that in various of the Gnostic Gospels and so forth. And it's especially important for women to see these kinds of holy woman, Bhairavi Mata, if you will, using the Hindu saint term, the Hindu term, these types of elevated holy women, because we're on a road, we're on a path, we're on a mission. Probably a lot of your listeners and viewers are what they would consider star seeds. They know they come in with a higher level of intelligence, and there's some codings that they might benefit from by reading this book and studying the kinds of things I'm talking about.
Now, in chapter 1, you go right into describing Mary as, and you just touched on this lightly, but describing Mary as the greatest holy person who ever walked the planet. That's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
Why would you say she's the greatest?
I take that from first Sri Kaleshwar, the late Hindu saint, who passed out of his body when he was 36 years old in 2012, and left us with this whole body of information that he had gathered from ancient palm leaf manuscripts in India, as well as his own past life memory recall of the family. And he is the one bringing forth the ancient information about the Holy Womb Chakra and how Mother Mary was the major practitioner of these mantras and yantras. And he is the one who said she was an even bigger saint or avatar than Jesus, because she's the one who planned the whole thing. She's the one who taught Jesus in utero. And when he was a child, She's the one who accompanied Jesus as a soulmate in his life. And he's the one that whose energy he would call on whenever he was doing healings. This, according to the late Hindu saint Sri Kaleshwar. And when I heard this in a series of teachings that I went to in 2017, taught by his senior student, Cindy Lindsay, I was so moved by that. And based on all the research I had already done on Mother Mary, I just said, this feels like truth to me, and I'm going with it.
Do you feel like, and I know when we look at Holy Scriptures, whether it's the Bible or any of these, that there was a lot of patriarchal interpretations, and you even talk about that the divine feminine being overshadowed by that, in chapter 1. Do you feel like that's maybe why she isn't mentioned so much in the Scriptures? Like if you read the Bible, you go through the Gospels, there's a mention of her, and yes, there's a mention of her being a powerful woman and the virgin birth, and we'll get into the virgin birth here in a little bit. But do you think they kind of purposely, do you think there's a kind of a conspiracy theory that they didn't make her as powerful as the stories were told?
Yeah. And it's not really a conspiracy theory, it's a historical fact, because you can trace how these Gospels go. You can trace how the history goes. And you can see that in these various councils, like the Council of Nicaea and afterward in the 4th century of the Common Era, there is a deliberate meeting on the part of these patriarchs to decide what goes in the official Bible, what does not. And so there's a whole bunch of really great stuff that we might call today Gnostic Gospels or Essene Gospels or Book of Enoch or whatever that don't make it in. And then these kind of contracted Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, letters of Paul, the other things that are in there make it in because they present a ratcheted down, controllable image of Jesus and the Holy Family that then can be used to control people. Whereas really, these people and their whole mission comes from a very deep esoteric tradition that you can discern by, again, looking at the Essene Dead Sea Scrolls, the Gnostic Gospels from Nag Hammadi, other suppressed Gospels, and so forth. And it's clear in those that the women had a much bigger role. And you can tell even in those Gospels that the women are starting to be ratcheted down. They're starting to be controlled. They're starting to be disappeared, argued with, and so forth. Even if there's this wonderful book that Ali Kattouz, a scholar, Ali Kattouz has written about Mother Mary and that time period. You can see that their women were in the majority, or at least pictured in the majority of the early leaders of what we might call the Christian faith. They were out there. Mother Mary had her hands up in all of the very early frescoes and things like that. And gradually over these few hundred years, eyes cast down. The women are no longer there. It's the patriarchs in their red hats, whatever it is. So it's a very traceable trajectory.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. Why do you feel, I want to get into this a little bit, reconnecting with the true essence of the divine feminine and rediscovering Mother Mary, that in and of itself, to me, if you're someone that's not conscious, if you're masculine, and I'm talking about like a masculine hierarchy in a religion, that would be scary to somebody like that, or a group of people like that. Do you feel like that's why it was suppressed? Because they did not either fully understand or acknowledge or even want to understand what the true essence of a divine feminine, the power and the nature in that creation is?
Right. So, Jason, this talks about a much deeper interdimensional history that's going on. This is not really just the idea that men are jerks. It's
Right.
not. It's about how men and the masculine got hijacked on this planet by other energies and forces that have been functioning here for quite some time. And that if you read the Gnostic Gospels, it's right in there who they were, who they are, what they've been doing, how they've downgraded humanity, and therefore why the Sophia Christos mission came in to begin with was to deal with all this dampening of the human spirit dumbing down of the human mind, dismissal and eradication of the mystery traditions that would awaken people's consciousness, the gradual outlawing of the mystery traditions and the use of sacred medicines that would open people up. All of this is part of an interdimensional kind of warfare on the planet. And so these energies decide how they're going to make this happen. And they focused on the masculine because it tended to have more of the bodily brute strength or whatever, and maybe some more of the density than the feminine. And so that was the one that was zeroed in on of if you're going to talk about two genders, let's say, that was the one that was zeroed in on as the one that was going to carry out the agenda of these negative energies. So underneath these seeming religious institutions, according to many, and according to what I've researched, are some really gnarly energies that pop up and are pretty much controlling the show, and that are leading to these decisions that are made at these councils and so forth and so on. These decisions to not have female priestesses anymore and to really corral the role of the women into desiccated nuns who no longer could even access their holy womb power at all. Right? So this is a trajectory. This is a story. This is something that was already going on before Jesus and Mary came to the earth. There was a denigration that was happening within the Jewish tradition, within the esoteric Greek tradition and Egyptian traditions and so forth.
Do you feel like it's an underlying spirit, or, what causes the suppression?
Beings, negative entities.
Yeah, I know that makes sense.
Call themselves gods
Mhm.
that say there shall be none other before them, which indicates that there actually are others. Why would they be worried?
Exactly, yeah.
So on. These things that have come into the documents that then became our religious programs and maps, and then told us how to be and how not to be, what to do and what not to do, took away our power, gave us only mediated experiences of the divine through institutions, started focusing on purity laws rather than esoteric inner meaning of finding your divine light and so forth.
Yeah,
These are the kinds of things that I've been exploring and the documents that I've been looking at in order to piece together a Mother Mary who's a much different version than the one we are shown, who is minuscule. She's, first of all, an eternal young girl maiden. She never has a life. She somehow was made to be pregnant through no reason of her own, no understanding of her own. And then gives birth to the avatar, the holy being, and then she's sequestered out of the picture, textually. So I had to do a lot of uncovering to find out who this Mother Mary is so that we could understand who we all are.
Yeah, and you talk about the connection to Sophia and the divine feminine wisdom.
Yes.
And then how you see this connection manifesting in Mary's life and actions. Can you get that divine feminine wisdom throughout history? Can you kind of delve into that a little bit?
So the sacred feminine has been on par with, if not grander than, the sacred masculine since the beginning of human existence, since the beginning of our planetary understanding, and going deep back into interplanetary understandings and the Akashic records. And we can they call her the goddess of 10,000 names or maybe 1,000,000 names, because she's in every culture. At the core, at the origin of the cultures, there was one or more sacred feminine figures. In the Jewish tradition, in the Christian tradition, we have her known as Sophia. She is the wind beneath the wings of Mother Mary and all of the Marys, Mary Magdalene and so forth. They are emanations of her. They are combinations of wisdom, of knowledge of good and evil, womb mysteries, sacred heart, compassion, love, and the ability to see, prophesy, and peer into other dimensions. That's the great Sophia. She's a cosmic creator being of the universe. And so these Marys were cultivating this aspect of themselves. And this is something that we can all cultivate within ourselves, whatever our sex.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to get into that because you talk about remothering but I want, as we begin to, and you suggest that connecting with Mary can transform our lives. In the first chapter, you get into a personal experience. Can you kind of play that out for others and how, or maybe somebody you've worked with, or some stories about connecting with Mary, what that can do to you from a personal standpoint?
Right. So I explore maybe 2 or 3 examples of miracles in my own life that I attribute to my work with Mother Mary. And since then, since the book has come out and I've been enrolling this Mary and Magdalene priestess training, I've been speaking to lots of women who have a really deep connection with Mother Mary. Sometimes she looks a little bit in the Catholic line, sometimes she doesn't at all. And the stories of what's happened in their lives as a result of this connection are incredible. Healing, awakening, feeling like you have a friend, feeling like you have a mentor, candles relighting that were blown out. I just, and I had my own healing experience with Mother Mary of my womb, right? So there's that story in the book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, and the healing of me emotionally, which goes on to this day. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I had a major medicine ceremony where I was able to break on through to the other side with a person who was a very good guide for me and experience a deeper level of healing than I ever had. And this in particular had to do with my mother, who crossed over to the other side of the veil when I was 10 years old. So this is quite a number of decades ago. And my intention was to call in the Marys, and especially Mother Mary, to help me connect with her finally after all these decades, and then have a healing around this. It was this extraordinary experience, Jason, of unitive consciousness and, kind of going through the bardo and coming out into this field of where the ancestors dwell, right? And there I felt my mother, and there I felt Mother Mary especially. And she brokered this healing for me of feeling Mother Mary holding me. And that was like a deep drinking from a well that I had never really experienced in this lifetime, to my knowledge. And as she filled in what I needed, I could kind of trust that my mother was getting what she needed. And both of us had a healing, and she had like a kind of a release from I don't want to say an imprisonment, but an enmeshment with me all these decades where I was worried about her. She was worried about me. I needed to heal. She needed to heal. There was some rehabilitation that she was sort of frozen in stasis. And what I just sensed is that, okay, we got through this hump, and Mother Mary was there because I knew consciously to call on her. And that was just this huge, it has changed my life. I mean, every single minute of every day, I am grappling with the initiation of that and the integration of what happened just a few weeks ago. So it goes on and on. It goes
Right.
on and on. You can work with these Marys at any level you want, be it the personal, emotional, or physical healing level, or be it the level of understanding the inner dimensions, that there are more than just our 3 dimensions, how to work with them, navigate them in life, how to raise our vibration in this life, and then how to plan for what's afterward, right? The retirement plan after retirement, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is that all about? A lot of us should be thinking about that, no matter what our age, because how we live governs where we're going.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. But when I read chapter 2, this really touched me, is the remothering, Mary's remothering, because so many people, and they've written hymns about this and songs, whether you're Protestant or Catholic or whatever, we always look to the healing as being like, I'm going to call on Jesus and, and he's the Father, God the Father. And there's no feminine healing.
No.
There's no remothering. And so many people that I've talked to have trauma around, not just trauma, but like drama around. One of my good friends, he's, his mother passed away when he was younger. She passed away of drugs and alcohol. So like this is something that I encourage him to read, because I think, as far as all of our personal journeys, and you lost your mother, at a young age, but we need this figure in our life
Yeah,
for the remothering.
Jason, we've all lost our mother. I'm just a little microcosmic mirror of what the whole collective has gone through.
Yes.
Okay, in most of our cultures, and especially Western traditions, the truncation of the mother from our lives, from our culture, has been such a trauma that we don't even know that we're reeling. And it is the greatest thing that's needed, is for us to get back in touch with that mothering energy. You cannot have the father alone.
Yeah, that
Some would argue that you can have the mother without the father, but you can't really have the father without the mother.
Right.
It is a necessary component for our universe. And so what's happening now is the return to the mother for every one of us who has experienced some level of death, when we're brought up in a tradition that doesn't even acknowledge that the feminine could be God and God could be the feminine.
Yeah, that's amazing. One of the things that you talk about is several Mary miracles in your life. And I began to think about this when I was reading it, and it kind of woke me up to the point of, I know feminine energy is like creational energy. And you had said, that Jesus, called upon Mary when he did miracles, and then you call them Mary miracles. Do you feel like a lot of people, if they would reach out and understand Mary's remothering, could experience more miracles in their life?
Yes, absolutely. And where I'm coming from with this is not like, come to Jesus, come to Mary. I'm not installing a new program of Christianization. I'm saying this is a woman who had many lifetimes to expand and perfect her soul, such that in her final lifetime as Mother Mary, she unified with Mother Divine. She's available in the form of this identity that we call upon her as Mother Mary. But it's not about worshiping her. It's not about becoming Christian. It's, you know what I mean? It's about calling on a really good resource in our world today who can be identified and has been in the backyard of a lot of people's religions, and is a pretty, you can like dust her off and call her to you. She's there. She's active, right? In other cultures, you might call her Kuan Yin. You might call her Isis. You might call her, whatever. Okay. And she's part of that same stream of pure, profound, perfect mothering energy that's
so amazing.
Fills your well, and that sets you up to be not continually dealing with emotional wounding and trauma, but to start moving on so that you can have a better life and you can think about what it is that you want in your life. And you can think about what it is you want as a soul ongoingly. Where are you going? Let's make some long-term plans. Which dimension do you want your soul to go to on your journey when it leaves this body? Did you even know there were dimensions, right? Did you even know you could choose? Did you even know that you have a soul? Did you even know that there are beings and your ancestors and grandparents who are there waiting for you to help guide you over, right? And so did you know that you could start calling on these principles in this life to have a much better life, a much better quality of life?
Yeah, I just feel like there's so many people that need, well, like you said, everyone that needs this remothering and needs to understand that the healing comes from, because we've tried to do it with the masculine, like everybody, we all have equal masculine, feminine in us, but it's so unbalanced.
Yeah. It's too yang, let's say. If we're going to do yin yang, you really want that yin yang balanced. You want it to look exactly like we see in those Chinese characters, right? Because we're very yang distorted, especially in Western culture, where we're constantly pushing, doing, pummeling, getting along through competition, violence, that kind of thing, warring. All of that is an out of control yang energy. And so we need to bring in that yin and really have it settle us as a globe, because look what's happening to our environment because of this out of balanceness. Our climate because of this out of balanceness. Intergenerational trauma is a result of the out of balanceness. The sexual abuse that's rampant throughout this planet, small, medium, and large, in common families and in, other levels.
Human trafficking, all that.
Human trafficking is a part of that. All of this is from a world that is seriously being controlled by these negative energies that have hijacked yang energy and are making a go for it and suppress the sacred feminine's presence, hijack or distort her, because they can do that as well. That's gone on. And so this really requires a lot of awakening to what's going on and a lot of understanding of what's possible for us. And that's why I wrote this book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, to show us what is possible for us when we start working with these beings, these masters who really care about the human family and have come time and again, and have them raise us to a new level.
Yeah, that's amazing. In chapter 3, you go into Mary as a conscious priestess of divine birth. And you've already shared with us some new understanding, I think for a lot of people that are listening, new understanding of Mary's role and who she was, so that people understand her completely. Can you get into the lineage of divine birth priestesses?
That's right. You see, we're told this thing in Christianity that Mother Mary conceived and gave birth without having any sex with a man. And she really didn't even know what was happening to her that much. Well, because I had started out my doctoral research on all these hints and shards and globs of information about divine birth in the ancient Mediterranean and Aegean world, and wrote about it, 2 books before I even went into this material about Mother Mary, I knew that of the existence of these priestesses of miraculous conception, these priestesses of parthenogenesis, these priestesses of who were able to conceive without male sperm. And there were other degrees of this practice all the way to high tantra, which is the priestesses would unite with the sacred king, and then they would have an elevated child through that. But the whole purpose of this divine conception technology was to bring in a higher vibrational child than would come in through the normal, ordinary ways of 2 people uniting. So it was a high-level priestess yoga and function, and it became increasingly hijacked, increasingly hidden. But Mother Mary pops up into it because we have it in her lineage. Her mother, it turns out, Anne Hannah, conceived Mary in just this way. No sex involved. In their lineage, they go all the way back to Sarah, the mother of Isaac, the partner of the biblical Abraham. Same deal. That story about, she was a good person, and even though she was an old lady, she prayed really hard and she had a baby. No, that's covering up a whole process and practice that this woman was doing throughout her entire life, as was Mother Mary's mother. Mother Mary was such a high adept that she accomplished it very quickly in her maiden years. But her Aunt Elizabeth was able to conceive John the Baptist in this way. And, there are others throughout time. And so this is about a high-level priestess willed enterprise to bring in beings to the planet who can help out humanity. Mother Mary being one of them, John the Baptist being one of them, and Jesus being one of them, just in that little gathering, that little Holy Family clutch. Not to mention others around the planet in Native American traditions, in Hindu traditions, right? So when we start understanding this was a priestess function, everything starts to make sense. And when I provide all the evidence from the text to show you how and what was really going on, not only for Mother Mary, but for others, then we really start understanding it. And
yeah, it's amazing for me, especially when I began to read it. And one of the things that I've always said when it comes to Mary's conception of Jesus, any religion that goes against the free will of a woman, I'm out on. And if you really look at most religions go against that's one of the tenets that they have, whether it's through dress or whatever it may be. They're going against the free will. And that's how you judge a positive entity or negative entity. Are they trying to go against your free will? So why would an entity go against this young maiden, Mary, and then, oh, wow, all of a sudden, I'm pregnant without any free will.
No, it's not. It's that they're distorting the story so that women can't access the information like, this is an actual thing that could be done, then others could do it. No, these forces definitely are not that keen on that happening on the planet. So these things are veiled. They're used, they're veiled, they're turned into some weird idea that a smart thinking person couldn't possibly believe. But what I've done is I've uncovered it so that people can believe, can understand. It's not about belief. It's about, what they were doing. It's about a history.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It made so much sense to me when you talked about, the text, the infancy gospel of James, and then Mary's childhood training in the temple. We always focused on Jesus going to Egypt and Jesus doing all this, but he's like a little kid following along.
That's right.
And his mother is the one that's doing the training. Can you get into that about, the training in the temple?
Yeah. Well, and for this, I have been led to, thanks to William Henry, who's just another fabulous researcher. He turned me on to Victoria Lepage's book. It's called Mystery of the Bride Chamber. She lays it out, showing what I had intuited as I was doing this research, because in the infancy gospel of James, which is all about Mother Mary's conception by her mother Anne, her infancy, her upbringing, her training, and her conception of Jesus, I was like, this is talking about a kind of a different type of Judaism. What's going on? A temple where there were these virgins that Mary would then go into and be trained, and because it doesn't fit in with the traditional historical Judaism that we've been fed all this time, people just think, oh, this is just a made-up Catholic document. When no, it is revealing a whole alternative bunch of Judaisms that were going on at the time. And that's what's so interesting. That's what we need to look at. And this absolutely talks about, it was basically an Essene type or therapeutic type of practice that was going on with Anne and then how she raised Mother Mary. But we hear that Mother Mary had a special diet. She was purified by these virgins who would come when she was an infant and, up until she was 3 years old. She was working with sound, dance, song, all these kinds of technologies, such that when she was 3 years old and then delivered to the temple, she knew how to dance and sing on the steps of the temple. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is a little Dalai Lama. Except it was well before the Dalai Lama and it was a girl. You see? And
Yes.
so then you learn about that she was, in that temple for a while. And then all of a sudden, when she was somewhere between 12 and 16 years old, she was able to engage this ritual with 7 other women. They were 8 women. They were engaging a weaving ritual. And it was during this ritual that she conceived Jesus. And there's signs that Elizabeth may have been in that same ritual to conceive John the Baptist. Okay, because she seems to be one of this circle of this lineage, right? So they were not even just working alone. They were working in a group. And these are the details that get revealed in these suppressed gospels when you know how to look at them. And because I had done all of that tremendous work for years, I was able to look at these shards and go, oh my God, I know what that is. Here's what it is, everybody. Take a look.
Yeah, and it's so wild because even in my own life, it was saddening, for people that are even trying to understand and study spirituality. And everybody always, like, if you say, name a spiritual guru or name somebody, they'll all Ram Dass or Jesus or Buddha. It's all, and then if you go do a history or a lineage of all the spiritual teachers that's been around, it's all 90% masculine. It's like, why, like the oracles, who are those, powerful women? The list goes on and on of like this suppression of like, shouldn't we have equal amounts of, you would think we'd have equal amounts of masculine spiritual examples that are out there and feminine spiritual examples that we could tap into.
Exactly. But it's that selective interdimensional influence hijacking the masculine and developing into what we now call patriarchy or rule by the fathers in an abusive way. This is the journey that we've been on that has disappeared the women.
I think it's In chapter 4, you talk about the power, and that's a when you talk about feminine energy and power, if somebody is, nefarious, they're not going to like this. But you go into the Mary's Holy Womb Chakra, and you
Yeah.
even talk about this is the power that created Jesus's resurrection. Can
Yeah.
we just stop for a little bit and spend some time? Because chapter 4 to me was like, I mean, pardon my French, was like, holy shit, like this is intense. Can you explain, especially to the women that are out there, Mary's Holy Womb Chakra?
That's right. This, again, is from the ancient palm leaf manuscripts from thousands of years ago that Sri Kaleshwar from India collected, combined with his own knowledge of the walking with the Holy Family. And all of a sudden, we get this much different picture of Mother Mary as this powerhouse who not only conceived Jesus divinely, but she resurrected him through the powers of her womb. She had perfected her womb powers through mantras, the use of sacred drawings, symbols, and mystical understandings. All of these powers that she had developed of being able to put a soul back into a body and then bring a body back to life, known as Atmakandana Yoga and Parakaya Pravesh. She was an adept. She had mastery over the elements of the earth and then some. She had mastery over her body. She had mastery over the DNA and quantum physics and light and all of that kind of thing. So that when the crucifixion happened and they were breaking down the body of her son so that they could really create a whole trauma field for everybody around what he was trying to do, which was make the mysteries open to everyone. They knew they had to go into work big time. And Jesus, according to Kaleshwar, and I describe it in The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Jesus was doing his own yoga while even in the process of being crucified, where he took part of his soul out of his body and parked it. Okay. He left only a little bit in the body, such that when his broken body could be taken down from the cross, Mother Mary was able to get the body through Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, put it on her lap, and then do this tremendous tsunami-like power with these mantras to do Parakaya Pravesh, bring the dead back to life, bring Jesus' soul back into his body and resurrect him. Now, Kaleshwar's implication is that Jesus literally was able to stand and walk, and that he was showing up, that he did go to India. Whether you adhere to that timeline or whether you just adhere to the idea that Blessed Mother Mary helped him to cross over to the other side whole, without trauma, whatever the case may be, she was involved in it, according to Sri Kaleshwar. That makes so much sense to me. It's not like some weird, strange thing that just happened to a guy who was, hanging on a cross and probably soiling himself. There were people that were helping with this great sacrificial mystery rite that was going on in living color, not in a way they wanted, but in the way they got. And so,
That's amazing.
it opens up possibilities of doors like, could a woman be that powerful?
Yes, exactly. Can you get into that with the how women can access the creative womb energy? Because one of the things that I want you to talk about is I think that even these beings, these negative entities you talk about, they want to hijack the feminine to the point of where they're even misleading women to go on a masculine journey
That's right.
instead of allowing them to have this creative womb energy. And I mean, even if you look in the Bible, the Holy Spirit is feminine, and that's what created the world. The Spirit moved upon the waters in Genesis, if you believe that or not. But it's like with creation is always things that are being created, this earth, Mother Nature, we call it, this super powerful creative womb energy. How can a woman access that?
Through her very own womb. And Sri Kaleshwar, I talk about my own process with this, that it was an integral part of connecting with Mother Mary and my birth mother, by the way, because there's a process you go through over 3 months of chanting these mantras 108 times each, and there are about 8 of them. really understanding what each of them means. Each of them is designed to help clear, heal, and raise the vibration of your womb. This is what Sri Kaleshwar says that Mother Mary did. Even Jesus did it, because men can do this practice. Mary Magdalene did it, and others, great sages throughout time. And this gives you the power of being able to heal yourself, or reach out to heal others, or protect a mother or yourself during your pregnancy and during your labor. Protect your child, help reverse out negativity that's come upon your child, those kinds of things. And these are processes and practices that are available. It's called the Holy Womb Chakra System. My class is called the Holy Womb Chakra Teachings. That is available as an on-demand course online. People can just go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com and find it on the homepage. And I did it myself, and I was like not so keen into like mantras and all that. I'm like, I don't know. But when I had my little health scare and I realized, wow, I've been handed on a silver platter a process to help me. Let me get into it. Let me get into my womb. Let me get started on this. These miraculous things started happening in my life. That is the power of these practices, and it is the power of the womb, and it is just a glimpse of what the power of the womb is. You can see the zenith of those powers in Mother Mary, who can give divine birth and who can give divine death.
Yes. Yeah, that's wild. You have it in chapter 5, Mary's relationship with Mary Magdalene. And you also have, and I want you to get into, let's start off with the Mary Magdalene. What is the priestess school you have, Mary Magdalene? What do you call it?
So my school is called Seven Sisters Mystery School. Within that, I'm doing the Mary and Magdalene Priestess training. And it's a 6-month program that runs September 2024 through February 2025. We will keep enrollment open through September. If people hear this at the last minute and they're like, what's that? We'll have the link under your...
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes.
Under the show. But I've done... That is like a culmination. It's a true weave of many things I've been studying and teaching about and offering oracles about over the years. And I also have other smaller courses and things like that about Mary Magdalene and the Holy Womb Chakra teachings and so forth. All have been under the umbrella of Seven Sisters Mystery School. But this new training is about really helping us use essentially the book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, as the foundation for then some living practices that I'm helping us to pull through by looking at the Gnostic material and so forth, and weave together many things that have been torn asunder, like our connection with the Pleiades as 7 mothers of the world, our connection with the fairies as the realm of the 5D. Why is the unicorn so connected with Mother Mary in the medieval manuscripts? It's a whole mystery tradition that's gone underground, right? How does the dragon and Sophia connect in with all of this? How does our loving heart, how does living an ethical life connect in with all of this? These are some of the things we're going to be exploring to raise our vibration and walk the path of the Marys and walk the path of the Magdalenes, both of those things being priestess titles, you see.
Yeah, there's so many misconceptions about Mary Magdalene. Can you go into her a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, for the last 40 years, people have been uncovering academically and through their own oracle space truths about Mary Magdalene that are really the reversal of the picture that we're given in Christianity, that she was a prostitute, that, she was a sinful woman, that she needed redemption from Jesus and all of this kind of thing. When in fact, again, when you start digging into her suppressed gospels, the Gnostic gospels, you realize, gosh, she was actually the companion, partner, probably wife of Jesus, the daughter-in-law of Mother Mary, that she, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, and Mother Mary's sister, another Mary, who also had that priestess title, always walked with Jesus, that Mother Mary, you look into her old biographies, you read that she was Mary Magdalene's teacher as well, Mary Magdalene's mentor, helping raise her up to the level of the head of the female apostles. So they must have really been in a cooperative, loving relationship together. That's just a little hint of what's in the book about Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chapter 6, and we'll close out in this. I mean, we can probably put like chapter 6 and 7 together. Chapter 6, you talk about the full ascension to divinity, and then Mary's prophecy for humanity in the 6-book narratives. How do you see the Mary's ascension story and these prophecies as inspiration for people today?
Yeah, I mean, it's written out what she went through, what her journey was, what stages she passed through, what dimensions and heavens she passed through in order to fully merge with the divine source, light, love, creator. That could be an interesting roadmap for a lot of us. It's also a glimpse into a whole profession of priestesses who know how to help a soul go through not only the bardo, but into the higher dimensions, right? And so there are many indications, tips, tidbits, hints as to what we can encounter, how we can make this passage and for ourselves, and why and how it is that Mother Mary has become so big that she can be available to everyone simultaneously.
That's amazing. And we're coming up on the hour. I could talk to you for hours on this. This is so amazing. Dr. Marguerite, this was like, it blew me away. Your book did. I'm so happy I read it. I have friends that I want to give it to. I've ordered extra copies online, and I encourage everyone to do that. I think not just women, but men too. But, I know so many people that are hurting and having to deal with trauma and different things, and they don't understand the divine feminine power and the personal healing that's awaiting them, like your book says. Once again, can you give everybody your website, how they can, be a part of these courses and begin their healing?
Yes. And Jason, first of all, thank you so much for your impassioned support of this book, of this work, of me. I really, really appreciate it. Yes, people can go to 7sistersmysteryschool.com, and the 7 is written out SEVEN. And there you will see under courses and on the homepage the things that are available currently for you, either online, on demand, or like this live Mary Magdalene Priestess training, YouTube lives that I have coming up because I do oracles online live using Lady Cannabis as my conveyor to the other realms, and many other things that I do. Cacao ceremonies that I do online and in person. I have a retreat coming up the October 11th weekend where we will be working with the Marys to amplify our love energy through the elixir and the sacrament of cacao. So there are many things, and people can get on my email list and stay on that, see what's happening. I have so many videos coming out continually and shows like this that we make available to people. So there is my YouTube channel, Marguerite Rigoglioso. There's so much there. I mean, you could be binge watching for.
Great. That's awesome.
So yeah, those are some ways that people can find out more and start tapping into the courses that are available. Perhaps even the training, the Mary and Magdalene Priestess training. I also have a monthly Mary and Magdalene Empowerment Circle. It's just a monthly oasis. You come, you receive from the Marys. We have a different theme, take you in a different domain or dimension, and then offer an oracle, a channeling each month, which is a very low subscription rate. So again, all of that is at 7 Sisters Mystery School.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marguerite. We appreciate you and the work that you're doing. We're supportive and love the 7 Sisters Mystery Schools. We'll put all the links and have everything in there for your social media and all that. Thank you so much for being on HDL.